The newcomer. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Thick purple trees stood tall, their branches moving like they were alive. Strange birds with glowing eyes watched from above. The air smelled sharp, like metal and smoke. On planet Cora 7, this kind of silence only meant one thing. A predator was near. Zira crouched behind a large rock, her breathing slow. Her green skin glowed faintly under the two moons. She was not a soldier, not a hunter, just a scientist. But she had learned to survive here. This planet showed no mercy. Her voice whispered into her recorder. Day 231. Velgon beast spotted again near Sector 4. No survivors found from last expedition. This area remains deadly. She looked through her scope. Far away, a massive shadow moved between the trees. It was 10 feet tall, with black fur and red eyes. The Velgon beast, the most dangerous creature on this planet. Even her people feared it. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. Boom! Something entered the atmosphere. Fast, Zira stood up, eyes wide. A human ship was crashing. Flames lit the sky as the silver craft spun downwards and disappeared into the forest with a deep explosion. She blinked. Another one? She tapped her communicator. Command, this is Zira. A human ship just crash-landed in Zone 3. A voice replied, tired and cold. Not our problem. No one survives long there. Zira frowned but said nothing. She knew the truth. No human lasted more than 48 hours on this planet. The jungle always won. Still, curiosity burned inside her. 2 days passed. Zira moved silently through the forest, following the smoke. She expected to find wreckage and maybe bones, but instead she found something else. The human was alive. He sat near a fire, calmly roasting some strange fruit. His clothes were torn, his face dirty, but he looked relaxed. Too relaxed. Zira watched from behind the trees. Her recorder was running. This is not possible, she whispered. Then something even stranger happened. A small predator, one of the jungle's dangerous night creepers, crept toward him. It had sharp claws and glowing blue fangs. Zira reached for her weapon. But the human didn't move. Instead, he whistled. A soft, rising tune, gentle, like music. The creature stopped. It tilted its head. He whistled again, slower this time. The beast blinked, then backed away into the shadows. Zira stared. What kind of human is this? That night, the human climbed a tree and rested on a high branch. Smart move. Ground was dangerous at night. Zira didn't sleep. She kept watching. The next morning, she was about to leave when she felt it. The ground shook slightly. Leaves moved. Birds flew away. The Velgon beast was coming. Zira froze. She spotted it, massive, dark, and silent. Its red eyes searched the forest, and then it saw the human. He was still by his fire, cleaning some metal parts. Zira held her breath. Run, she whispered. Why are you not running? The Velgon moved closer. It growled low and deep. The human stood up slowly. He didn't reach for a weapon, he didn't scream. Instead, he raised his hand. He whistled again, but this time the sound was deeper, like a calling. The jungle fell quiet. Even the wind seemed to pause. The Velgon stopped. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the impossible happened. The beast lowered its head. It walked slowly to the human and sat down like a trained pet. Zira's heart raced. Her hands shook. This can't be real, she whispered. The human stepped forward, placed a hand on the beast's head and smiled. The Velgon growled softly like it enjoyed the touch. Zira recorded everything. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Unknown human has tamed the Velgon. No weapons, no fear. This is not possible. This changes everything. The human suddenly looked up and right at her hiding place. He smiled. I know you're watching, he said, calm and kind. You've been there since yesterday. Zira stepped out slowly, unsure of what to say. "How did you do that?" she asked. He shrugged. "I listened." "To the beast?" "No," he said, smiling again. "To the planet." The beast and the boy Zira had never felt so confused in her life. She stood in the middle of a jungle that had killed soldiers, explorers, and even elite hunters. And now in front of her, a human stood, dusty, injured, smiling, with his hand resting on the head of the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, the Velgon beast. And it was calm. She blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. The human looked at her with curious eyes. His voice was soft, almost playful. "You going to shoot me?" he asked. Zira tightened her grip on her blaster, then slowly lowered it. "Not yet," she replied. He chuckled and turned back to the fire. "Suit yourself. There's space on the log if you're tired." Zira didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the beast. Its muscles were still tight like coiled rope, but it showed no signs of attack. It watched her with golden red eyes. Silent, intelligent, she stepped closer, slowly. "You tamed it," she said. "How?" The human poked at the fire. "I didn't tame it. I just didn't try to kill it." "That's not how it works. That thing has killed entire squads." He looked at her, a little sad now. "Maybe they made the mistake of showing fear, or violence." Zira studied him. He was no soldier. His clothes were scavenger grade. He had tools, no weapons. His hair was messy, his hands were rough and scratched, but his eyes, they were calm, observant, like he'd seen a lot and judged little. "What's your name?" she asked. "Jack." "Jack what?" He smiled again. "Just Jack." Zira frowned. "You're not with any fleet. Not a scout, not a scientist, so why are you here?" Jack leaned back, the Velgon curling beside him like a giant, deadly cat. He didn't answer at first. Then he said quietly, "I was looking for something real." She tilted her head. "On this planet?" He nodded. "There's no lies here, no politics, no pretending. Everything here either lives or dies. It's honest." Zira was silent. She hadn't expected that answer. That night she stayed nearby, hidden in the shadows. Jack spoke softly to the beast, calling it Shadow. The name fit. It moved without sound, its eyes glowing like embers in the dark. Zira tried to sleep, but she couldn't. Too many questions. Who was Jack really? Why was Shadow listening to him? And how long before everything fell apart? The next morning she returned. Jack was already up, drawing strange symbols in the dirt. "What is that?" she asked. Jack didn't look up. "The pattern of movement in the jungle. I've been tracking how the beasts travel. The forest shifts every few days. It's alive." "You mapped it?" He nodded. "You have to if you want to survive here." Zira was impressed but hid it. "And how do you know the Velgon won't rip your throat out tomorrow?" Jack looked at Shadow, who growled softly like it understood. "Because he had the chance to kill me, twice and didn't." Zira crossed her arms. "Maybe it's waiting for something." Jack's face darkened. "Maybe so." Later that day, they walked together through the forest. Shadow followed silently behind them. Zira noticed how other predators moved away. Even the flying hunters above changed direction. The Velgon was a king here, and now Jack walked beside it like a friend. As they moved, Zira kept recording. Human Jack has survived 5 days. No signs of fear. Has formed a strange bond with Velgon. Subject is unique. Jack raised an eyebrow. "You narrate everything?" "It's for research," she said. Jack smirked. "Am I your experiment?" She paused. "I don't know what you are." They reached a small river. Jack crouched down to drink. Shadow sat at the edge, alert. Zira scanned the area. "You shouldn't drink from this water, it's contaminated." "I filtered it with moss and heat," Jack replied without looking. "It's safe now." She stared at him. "You learned all this alone?" Jack finally looked at her, serious. This time. No one learns alone. I watched the animals. I followed them. They know how to survive better than we do. Zira nodded slowly. You think we're the problem. Jack stood up. I know we are. That night, a new sound echoed. Through the forest and metal and engines. Jack froze. Shadow growled. Zira's eyes widened. Poachers. Jack turned to her. They're tracking Shadow, aren't they? Zira nodded. They take rare species. Velgon hides are worth millions. They must have followed the crash signal. Jack's voice turned cold. Then we need to disappear. But they're not. Just hunters, Zira warned. They use AI drones, fire nets, neurostunners. Jack looked at Shadow. Then we fight smart. Zira grabbed his arm. You don't understand. If they see the Velgon tamed, they'll do more than hunt it. They'll capture you, study you, or worse. Jack didn't flinch. Let them come. As they moved to higher ground, Zira felt a chill. This planet had always felt dangerous, but now for the first time something else was growing inside her. Hope. She looked at Jack, a man with no armor, no army, and no fear, and at the beast that walked with him like a brother. What kind of human was this? And how was he doing the impossible? The enemy of my enemy. The sky over planet Cora 7 turned red as the twin suns began to set. Long shadows crawled across the jungle, stretching like claws over the trees. A strange silence crept in. Not the usual silence of the wild, but the silence of something unnatural. Jack knew the feeling. So did Shadow. The great beast stood completely still on a rock, sniffing the air. Then, with a low, rumbling growl, it turned its head east. They're close, Jack said quietly. Zira adjusted her scanner. 3 heat signatures, metal, cold, no heartbeat. Drones, Jack replied. She nodded. Poacher tech, fast, silent, deadly. They fire nets made of liquid steel. You can't outrun them. Jack didn't answer. He was already moving, fast and low. Shadow followed like a silent ghost. Zira took one last scan, then ran after them. They reached a narrow ravine, sharp rocks, a small stream below. Jack crouched and began setting up strange traps using vines, bones, and sticky sap. Zira watched, confused. This won't stop machines. It will slow them, Jack said, without stopping. That's all we need. Slow them long enough for Shadow to strike. Zira turned to the beast. You'd really risk your life for him, huh? Shadow met her eyes. He didn't growl or move, just stared deep into her like he understood the question. Jack stood up. He doesn't follow me. He chooses to stay. Zira looked down. He killed my brother. Jack paused. The words hung in the air like fog. I'm sorry, he said quietly. He was in the first research group. Zira continued, voice trembling. They went too close. The Velgon attacked. We only found his helmet. Jack didn't try to defend the beast. This planet doesn't forgive mistakes. Zira clenched her jaw. Then why do you forgive it? Jack turned, serious. Because it's not evil. It's just wild. It protects its own. Maybe we never tried to understand it. Zira stayed silent. But inside, something cracked. Maybe her people weren't the heroes in this story. Suddenly, a sharp buzzing sound cut through the air. The sky flashed. 3 black drones zipped into the clearing, hovering silently. Red lights blinked as they scanned the area. Hide, Jack whispered. Too late. A bright spotlight hit them. A robotic voice echoed. Human signature confirmed. Velgon target acquired. Prepare for retrieval. Jack grabbed Zira's hand. Run! They bolted into the trees. Shadow leapt over them, smashing one drone with a swipe of its claws. Metal pieces rained down like sparks. The second drone fired. A net shot out, glowing silver. It wrapped around Shadow's leg, crackling with energy. The beast roared and shook violently, muscles twitching. No! Zira cried out. Jack turned, picked up a sharp bone from his trap and threw it with perfect aim. It pierced the drone's sensor. The machine spun out and crashed into a tree. Only one drone remained. It flew high and began broadcasting. Jack's eyes widened. They're calling in the full team. He ran to Shadow, who was still shaking off the net. Zyra helped tear it away. Sparks burned her fingers, but she didn't stop. When the last drone turned to flee, Shadow leapt into the air and tackled it mid-flight. They both crashed into the bushes with a loud boom. Then, silence again. Only their heavy breathing filled the jungle air. Jack looked at Zyra. Now they know where we are. That night, they made a camp under the roots of an ancient tree. The air felt colder, tighter. Zyra held her arms close. Poachers will be here by sunrise. Jack was sharpening a stone blade. Let them come. Zyra sat beside him, her voice low. You don't get it. They're not here for the beast anymore. He looked at her. They're here for you now, she said. A human who controls the Velgon. That's a weapon, a myth. You're worth more than gold to them. Jack didn't speak. Zyra added, they'll capture you, take you to their labs, cut you open just to know how you did it. Jack looked at Shadow. Then we can't let them find out. Zyra paused. There may be a way to stop them. Jack turned slowly. How? Zyra hesitated. I know the leader of this poacher group. What? They used to be scientists, before they started trading rare life forms. The leader, he's my uncle. Jack stared at her. I can talk to him, she continued. Maybe convince him to leave you alone. No, Jack said. He won't listen. He might. If I threaten to expose him to the council, he still fears the law. Jack was silent, then he said, if you go to him, you might not come back. Zyra smiled bitterly. Neither will you. If we don't try something. At dawn, Zyra left alone. Jack watched her disappear into the trees. Shadow growled low, sensing her fear. Jack placed a hand on the beast's back. If she doesn't return, he whispered, we fight. Hours passed. Then the jungle trembled. Jack stood on a cliff edge watching a dark cloud move through the forest. Ships, machines, men. And in front of them, Zyra. Her hands were tied. She was being pulled by two guards. Jack's eyes burned with fury. From behind him, Shadow let out a thunderous roar, but Jack raised his hand. Not yet. Suddenly, from the crowd, a tall man stepped forward. He wore black armor and a strange smirk. Jack, the man said, voice amplified. You don't know me, but I know you. You've done something incredible. Jack said nothing. I don't want to hurt you, the man continued. I want to offer you a deal. Come with me willingly, and I'll let the girl go. Jack looked at Zyra. Her face was bruised, but her eyes were clear. She shook her head slowly. Don't trust him. Jack stepped forward, hands raised. The man smiled. Smart choice. But Jack wasn't surrendering. Behind him, the jungle began to move. Dozens of eyes opened in the trees. Creatures, predators, beasts. They stood beside Shadow, ready to fight. Jack's voice echoed through the silence. I didn't tame the jungle. I listened to it. He paused, then whispered, Now, it answers. The hunt begins. The jungle was not silent anymore. Birds fled from the trees. The wind carried a strange metallic scent. Machines buzzed low over the treetops, their red lights cutting through the morning mist like sharp knives. Zyra watched from inside her prison cage, a high-energy field with steel bars. She was back on her uncle's ship, the Harvester, a flying fortress disguised as a research lab. Except this ship didn't study life. It harvested it. Poachers in black armor moved around her, checking their weapons, preparing traps, whispering excitedly. They thought they had already won. They were wrong. From the cliffs above the valley, Jack knelt beside Shadow. The Velgon's black fur bristled and its golden-red eyes glowed with rage. Around them, jungle beasts waited, predators that once hunted Jack, now following his lead. Some were small and fast, others were tall and armored. All were deadly. "Jack," whispered, "they think we're wild animals. Let's show them how organized wild can be." Shadow rumbled in agreement. Jack stood scanning the poacher camp. He could see Zira, trapped but alive. Her eyes searched the treetops. She was stalling, buying time. He nodded. She kept her promise. Now it's my turn. On board the Harvester, Zira's uncle, Commander Varnak, stood before his crew. He was tall, scarred, and cold. Once a scientist, now a traitor of death. He paced slowly. "We are about to capture the rarest creature in the galaxy, a tamed Velgon, and the human who controls it. Both alive, both priceless." One officer asked, "Should we kill the girl?" Varnak smirked. "Not yet, she's bait. Family still has some value." Then, turning serious, he barked, "Deploy the fire nets, prepare the tranquilizers, and tell the drone pilots, aim for the human's legs. I want him alive but broken." Back in the jungle, Jack was almost ready. He had dug pits, set traps using vines, and placed sharp sticks dipped in tree venom. Not to kill, just to confuse, to slow. The beasts growled. Restless, Jack raised his hand. Not yet. He closed his eyes and listened. There, the whirring of engines, the thump of metal boots. The poachers were moving into the jungle. He opened his eyes. Now. Chaos exploded. One by one, the jungle traps triggered. Nets flew up, snapping soldiers into trees. Spikes popped from the ground. Thick clouds of pollen from the fire shrooms burst in the air, making machines glitch and soldiers cough. Then came the beasts. They attacked from above, from below, from behind. Silent fangs, claws, horns. Screams echoed in every direction. Jack moved like smoke through the trees. Fast, smart, invisible. Shadow was a black blur beside him, knocking armored men into trees, smashing drones mid-air. The poachers fought. Back, launching gas bombs, shooting stun rays, setting fire to the trees. The jungle screamed in pain. And still, Jack pushed forward, toward the Harvester. Zira heard the alarms before she saw the smoke. Outside her cage, screens flashed red, alert, multiple breaches, unknown lifeforms detected. Varnak stormed in. "They're using the creatures as weapons." Zira stood, calm but defiant. "They're not weapons. They're his friends." Varnak slapped the cage with his glove. "You chose the wrong side, girl." Zira smiled coldly. "No, I chose the right species." Jack reached the ship's lower deck, hidden behind crates. He tapped his wrist device, a simple sound signal. Somewhere outside, Shadow roared, deep and powerful. Jack knew Zira would hear it. He waited, and just as he expected, the power flickered. For 2 seconds, the energy field around her cage dropped. She kicked the guard, hard. He fell. She grabbed his weapon and rolled out just as the shield came back on. Moments later, Jack entered the hallway. Zira raised the blaster at him for a second, then smiled. "You took your time," Jack smiled back. "Told you I'd come." They ran through the corridor together, but behind them alarms screamed louder. Intruders on board, human and alien target escaping. "Intercept now." Varnak's voice echoed across the ship. "Seal all exits, bring me their heads." Outside, the fire reached the treetops. The jungle was burning. Shadow stood at the edge of the clearing, covered in dust and blood. Dozens of poachers lay on the ground, injured, unconscious, or running for their lives. But more were coming. Big machines. Walkers with legs like trees carrying laser cannons and stun turrets. Shadow howled into the sky. The remaining beasts came running, not to fight, but to protect the escape path. Shadow turned, looked toward the ship, and ran. Inside, Jack and Zira reached the hangar. It was blocked, a thick steel door. "Locked," Jack said. Zira looked around. "There, manual override." They rushed to it. She worked fast, pulling wires, tapping keys. Jack covered her, shooting drones that flew in, Then a shadow fell across them. Varnak, holding a plasma rifle. "It ends now," he said. Zaira stepped in front of Jack. "You don't have to do this." "You think this is personal?" Varnak growled. "It's survival. Resources are running out. These creatures, this planet, they're the last chance." Jack stepped forward. "You're not surviving, you're stealing, killing." Varnak raised the rifle, but before he could fire, crash. The wall exploded. Shadow burst through it like thunder. Varnak flew across the room. Jack grabbed Zaira's hand. "Time to go." They ran through the smoke. Behind them, Shadow roared. The kind of roar that stayed in the bones of every man who heard it. Minutes later, they stood on the edge of the burning jungle. Behind them, the harvester exploded. Flames. Rising high, Zaira breathed hard. "Did we win?" Jack looked around. The beasts had disappeared back into the trees. The fire was dying. The sky was turning gold. He smiled. "No, we survived." Shadow limped beside them, wounded, but alive. Zaira touched its fur. "He saved us," Jack nodded. "We saved each other." She turned to Jack. "This isn't over, you know. Others will come. Richer, stronger." Jack looked at the forest. "Then we'll teach them too." She raised an eyebrow. "You plan to stay here forever?" Jack smiled. "I think this planet is starting to trust me." Zaira looked at the jungle. Wild, strange, deadly, and for the first time in her life it didn't feel like a monster. It felt like home. Rebellion in the jungle. The jungle was healing, but it was not calm. Fires had burned parts of it black. Metal pieces from poacher ships still hung from trees. The ground was soaked with smoke, blood, and broken weapons. Yet, life continued. The creatures returned, slowly, cautiously. Jack sat beside a glowing lake, sharpening a stick. Shadow lay. Beside him, one leg wrapped in moss and tree sap. The mighty Velgon had taken deep wounds in the battle, but it didn't rest. Its eyes scanned the forest every few seconds, always ready. Zaira sat on a rock nearby, staring into the water. "Do you regret it?" Jack asked. She didn't answer. "Turning against your people?" Zaira's voice was low. "They stopped being my people the day they started selling life." Jack nodded. "Still, it couldn't have been easy." Zaira finally looked at him. "No, but I'd rather be with a beast who protects life than a species that destroys it." Jack smiled, slightly. But something heavy sat on his face. "What is it?" she asked. He hesitated. "We're not safe yet. That last ship sent a signal." Zaira's eyes narrowed. "You think more are coming?" "I know they are." That night, they moved deeper into the jungle, to a place even Zaira had never seen. A valley where the trees glowed from within. The air buzzed with strange energy. And in the center, ancient stone stood in a perfect circle. "This is sacred land," Zaira whispered. The first researchers marked it, but none of them came back. Jack walked into the circle like he belonged there. Shadow followed silently. "What is this place?" Jack asked. Zaira looked around nervously. "Legends say it's where the planet first awakened, where the creatures learned to feel, think, connect." Jack touched one of the stones. It pulsed, under his finger, none like a heartbeat. He closed his eyes, and suddenly he heard everything, not with his ears, mine, but inside. Wings fluttering, trees breathing, soil shifting, animals calling each other across miles, and a warning. Something big was coming. He opened his eyes. "We don't have much time." 3 days later, the sky cracked open again. But this time, it wasn't poachers. It was an official fleet, military ships from the Galactic Human Federation. Silver, sharp, and silent. Built not to explore, but to control. Their leader, Commander Nyla Varys, a woman with steel eyes and a voice like cold water. She had studied every file on Jack, every report on Zaira, every strange signal from the jungle. She didn't come to save them, she came to contain them. From her command bridge, Nyla stared at the jungle. "Open a secure channel," she ordered. A screen lit up with Jack's face. He didn't speak. He just watched her. Nyla broke the silence. "You've caused a lot of noise, Jack," Jack replied calmly. "Noise is what happens when someone wakes up in a dream built on lies." Nyla's lips tightened. "You're protecting an alien predator. You've united dangerous wildlife, and now you sit on ancient land that's never been touched." Jack didn't blink. "Maybe it's not my protection they want." Nyla's voice dropped. "You are now classified as a level 6 disruption. By law, I'm authorized to eliminate you." Zira stepped into frame. "Then you'll have to kill both of us." Nyla stared for a moment, then ended the call. That night, Jack sat at the edge of the sacred circle. Zira joined him, watching the moonlight pass through the trees. "You know she won't back down," Zira said. Jack nodded. "That's not the part I'm worried about." "What then?" He looked at her. "The jungle is changing." Zira frowned. "What do you mean?" Jack placed his hand on the ground. "I can feel it. It's reacting. It's aware, like it's choosing sides." Zira stayed quiet, then said softly, "Maybe it sees you as part of it now." The next morning, the war began. Federation drones dropped from the sky, sweeping the jungle with scanners. They didn't attack, yet. They watched, recorded, analyzed. Then came the message from Nyla. "Surrender peacefully. Hand over the Velgon. Disband your creature army. You will not be harmed." Jack didn't answer. Instead, he walked into the middle of the ancient stone circle and waited. Minutes passed. Then something strange happened. Animals began to arrive. Not just predators, but herbivores, winged beasts, glowing insects, even creatures Zira couldn't name. They circled Jack. They didn't growl or move. Just watched. The air changed. Tew was like the planet was holding its breath. Suddenly, a single Federation soldier stepped into the valley, weapon lowered, no armor, no threat. He called out, "Message from Commander Nyla." Jack stepped forward. The soldier raised a small device. A hologram of Nyla appeared. She spoke only one sentence. "This is your last chance, Jack. You're either with humanity or against it." Jack looked around at the glowing trees, the silent creatures, the wounded jungle, then back at her image. "I'm with life," he said, and crushed the device under his boot. Everything happened at once. Explosions tore through the treetops. Fire fell from the sky. Drones swarmed. Shadow roared. The jungle screamed. The war had begun. Zira ran through the battlefield, directing creatures, activating traps, helping the wounded. She had become more than a scientist now. She was a defender. Jack fought like the forest itself. Silent, quick, precise. No guns. Just instinct and the knowledge of every root, rock, and sound. Shadow moved through the chaos like a storm, but slower now, weaker. Then it happened. A blast hit Shadow in the side. He stumbled. Another drone aimed and preparing for the kill shot. Jack screamed, "No!" He ran, but he was too far. Then, a flash of green. Zira tackled the drone. She fell with it, crashing into a tree. Jack reached Shadow. Blood. Real blood. The Velgon was breathing but slow. Shadow looked at him. Eyes tired, eyes trusting. "No," Jack whispered. "Don't you leave me." Shadow blinked. Then something else happened. A glow spread from the ancient stones. Soft. Blue. Alive. It surrounded Jack and Shadow. And then, into Jack. His eyes widened. His skin glowed. His breath caught. The jungle had chosen. The drones froze. Machines, Everywhere stopped moving, as if confused. Nyla watched from her ship, horrified. "What is this?" she whispered. An officer replied, trembling. "The forest. It's rejecting our tech. It's reacting to him." Nyla turned away from the screen. "Pull back now before we lose control." In the valley, Jack stood tall, the energy fading, but something had changed in him. He turned to Zira. She whispered, "What happened?" Jack touched his chest. "I don't know. But I think the jungle is now inside me now." Zira's eyes widened. "You're not just surviving this planet anymore." Jack nodded. "I'm becoming part of it." The Last Stand. The jungle didn't sleep that night. Leaves trembled without wind. Roots shifted beneath the soil. Beasts stayed silent, sensing what was to come. The stars above looked dimmer, as if the sky itself feared the sunrise. Jack stood alone in the ancient circle of stones, his eyes glowing faintly, still changed from whatever power the forest had given him. He could feel the jungle breathing, could hear every heartbeat, not just from animals but the trees, the air, even the ground. Zira approached from behind. Her face was tired, scratched, but her eyes still sharp. "They're coming at dawn," she said. "I know," Jack replied. Zira hesitated, then stepped closer. "You don't have to face this alone." "I'm not," Jack said, placing a hand on the stone. "Not anymore." In orbit above the planet, Commander Nyla Varys stared down through her command ship's glass wall. Dozens of smaller vessels floated behind her, forming a tight formation of destruction. Her second-in-command approached. "Our drones were disabled again. No signal can get past the valley now. It's like something is jamming the planet." Nyla's voice was cold. "Not something, someone." She paused, then gave the order. "Deploy the purge walkers. Send down everything. If this planet has chosen Jack, we erase the entire jungle." At first light, the ground shook. Jack stood at the head of the valley. Beside him was Shadow, still wounded but proud. Behind them stood the army of the wild, Velgon cousins, bone-skinned stampers, vine hunters, sky gliders, and more. Zira had never seen so many creatures gathered in one place without tearing each other apart. Yet here they were, united, not by fear, not by power, but by trust. Jack raised his hand. The beasts fell silent. "We fight," he said simply. No loud speech, no orders, just truth, and then fire rained from the sky. The battle began. Massive metal machines known as purge walkers stomped into the jungle, each one the size of a building, legs like towers, eyes like blood-red suns. They fired lasers that turned trees into ash, released sonic blasts that sent waves of creatures flying. But the jungle fought back. Vine hunters swung from tree to machine, slicing wires. Stampers knocked down walkers like charging tanks. Sky gliders swarmed the gunships, tearing into their wings. Zira ran through the chaos, directing small groups, pulling the wounded to safety. She had become more than a researcher. She was now a general. Jack moved with calm precision, guiding the beasts, feeling the jungle's energy, predicting every enemy movement. Wherever he went, machines fell, traps triggered, roots burst from the ground like living spears. But despite their resistance, they were losing ground. For every machine destroyed, 2 more landed. For every drone crashed, another replaced it. Shadow fought like thunder, roaring, leaping, destroying, but his wounds slowed him. Blood marked his path. He growled, but each step grew heavier. Zira shouted, "He can't keep going." Jack turned, grief in his eyes. He won't stop, and Shadow didn't. Near the ancient circle, a Federation strike team landed silently. Special Ops, elite soldiers. Their mission, capture Jack alive. They moved through the smoke. Then one soldier paused. Behind him, the forest whispered. The trees moved, and he vanished, dragged into the ground by roots that twisted like fingers, Another soldier turned to run, but a Velgon cousin leapt from the shadows. Screams didn't even echo. The jungle was protecting its chosen now. At the front line, Jack suddenly fell to one knee. Zira rushed to him. "What is it?" He looked at her, sweat on his face. "It's the planet. It's burning too fast, it's in pain. Too much death, too fast." "You're connected to it," she realized. Jack nodded. "I can feel it dying." Zira took his hands. "Then we stop this now." In the command ship, Nyla watched the feed go dark, one by one. Her officers panicked. Units 4, 6, and 12 lost. We're being jammed. Casualties past 60%. Nyla's jaw clenched. "It's not possible. He's just one man." Then a message came through. Direct, encrypted, from inside the ship. "Stand down. This isn't your war anymore." Nyla turned pale. She knew that voice. Back on the jungle floor, Zira led Jack and Shadow through the chaos to a rocky hill. A Federation gunship had landed nearby. Zira paused. "That's my father's symbol." Jack looked at her. "Your father?" She nodded slowly. "He died during the first contact missions, or that's what they told me." The ship opened, and an older man stepped out, gray-haired, tired eyes, but wearing the Federation General badge. Zira gasped. "Father?" He held up his hand. "I came to stop this war." Flashback, revealed. Years ago, Zira's father had discovered the jungle's intelligence, but the Federation silenced him, fearing what would happen if nature proved stronger than machines. They staged his death and locked him away until he escaped and learned about Jack. Now he faced them both. "I know what the jungle gave you," he told Jack, "and I know the price." Jack nodded. "It's not power, it's responsibility." Zira's father turned to her. "There's only one way to stop the Purge protocol." Jack looked up. Dozens of walkers still remained, moving toward the heart of the valley. "What way?" Zira's father handed Jack a device. Old, glowing, ancient tech mixed with plant matter. "The jungle gave me this long ago, but it never activated. Until now." Jack touched it. The device glowed. Bright. Warm. And the sky cracked. Final battle moment. Jack stood in the middle of the battlefield. Creatures surrounded him. Shadow behind him. Barely breathing. The device lifted from his hand, floating. Beams of light reached into the trees, the soil, the sky. Machines began to shake. Birds cried out. The jungle awoke, not just the animals, but the land itself. The trees grew taller in seconds. Roots rose like walls. Flowers exploded into light. Waterfalls burst from cliffs. Storms gathered over the walkers. Lightning struck metal. The machines tried to fire, but their systems failed. And in that moment, the jungle pushed back. Everything, metal, was swallowed. Jack collapsed. Zira rushed to him. "Jack." He smiled weakly. "It's over." But behind them, Shadow fell. The great beast had reached its limit. It looked at Jack, then at the sky, and it closed its eyes for the last time. Zira held Jack as he cried, silent and broken. Shadow, the predator no one believed could feel, had died for his friend. Later, Nyla's ship left orbit, defeated. Zira's father helped rewrite the report. Jack was listed as a lost explorer. No one mentioned the jungle's power. No one dared. Zira stayed behind. So did Jack. Months passed. The jungle healed. Plants grew where machines had burned. A new Velgon cub was born. Zira whispered to it, "Your father was a legend." And Jack stood near the ancient stones, eyes closed, listening, not to fight, but to guide. He had become the bridge between nature and humanity. The jungle didn't fear him. It followed him. The legacy of the Temer. The jungle had gone quiet again, but this silence was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of peace. The skies had cleared. The trees stood tall and strong, branches stretched like arms after a long rest. The creatures had returned to their homes, their hiding places, their nests. The scars of war were still there, blackened soil, broken roots, but the jungle was healing faster than anyone expected, because it had changed, and so had its guardian. 3 months later, Jack stood barefoot on the sacred stones, no weapons, no gear. Just a quiet man with glowing eyes and a soft heartbeat that echoed with the rhythm of the forest. He wasn't just human anymore. He was something in between. A part of him still missed Shadow deeply. The Velgon beast had been more than a protector. He had been a friend, a brother, a soul too wild to be controlled and too loyal to leave. Jack looked up at the tree canopy above him and whispered, "I hope you're watching." Behind him, Zyra approached. She had changed too. Her researcher's uniform was gone. Now she wore woven clothes made from jungle fibers, marked with tribal symbols, symbols the jungle had shown her in dreams. Her eyes glowed softly, the same way Jack's did when he was fully in sync. "I brought something," she said. Jack turned. She held a small egg in her hands, dark with silver veins. It pulsed faintly, like a living heartbeat. "A Velgon cub," Zyra said. "Born near Shadow's resting place." Jack reached out gently. The egg warmed in his hand. "It's like he left something behind," he said softly. "No," Zyra replied. "He left everything." They climbed to the top of the oldest tree in the jungle, what the natives once called the spine tree, said to be the heart of the planet itself. From there, they could see the endless green stretching to every horizon. Zyra sat beside Jack. "There's a rumor spreading across the outer systems," she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. "What kind of rumor?" She smiled. "That an alien jungle rejected the Federation, that a man tamed a beast no one could touch, that the planet chose him instead of humanity." Jack laughed lightly. "That sounds impossible." "It is," she said. "But they're calling it the HFY event." Jack looked confused. "Humanity, fuck yeah," she explained with a grin. "Your species may be reckless, but once in a while, it gives the galaxy a reason to hope." Jack nodded, slowly. "I didn't tame the jungle. I just listened." Zyra looked at him. "And in return, it gave you a voice." Flash forward. 1 year later. The planet was no longer listed as hostile. Instead, it was marked as a protected biome, closed to mining, hunting, or trade. The Federation had backed off, quietly but completely, and those who tried to sneak in, they never came back. Some said the jungle swallowed them, others said the tamer warned them first. But no one ever saw him clearly. Only footprints, whispers, eyes in the dark, and the quiet sound of a soft whistle, the same one that once tamed a beast. Inside a deep cave lined with ancient glowing moss, Jack carved symbols into the walls. Not just words, memories. Shadow's story, Zyra's rebellion, the beasts who rose to protect their home. He was building a record, a warning, a legacy. Zyra stood behind him reading the carvings. "This will last forever," she said. "That's the idea." "Why tell this story?" she asked. "No one here reads these symbols but us." Jack turned. "One day, someone will come, a child, a lost explorer, a curious mind. They'll need to know the truth, not the Federation's version." Nodded. "Then let's make sure it's beautiful." The cub was born that night. It had the body of a Velgon, but strange green eyes. Like Jack's, like the jungle's. It purred softly and curled at Jack's feet. Zyra looked at it and smiled. Shadow would be proud. Jack didn't answer. Instead, he sat beside the cub, closed his eyes, and reached out with his mind. "And," the jungle answered. Meanwhile, far away, on a moon base orbiting a gas giant, a young cadet opened a sealed file. It was encrypted, old and marked Classified Chorus 7 event. He clicked play, a shaky video played, a human, standing before a giant beast. The beast bowed. The human one whistled. The cadet's eyes widened. "What is this?" he whispered. Behind him, a shadowy figure stepped forward. A woman. Commander Nyla Varys, older, quiet, watching. "It's a story the galaxy tried to bury," she said. "But stories like this, they grow back." Back on the planet, the cub had grown, quick, playful, sharp. Jack called him Ash. Ash followed Jack everywhere, through rivers, cliffs, tunnels. But he also had a mind of his own, sometimes running. Off into the forest only to return days later with something new. A skull, a fruit, a shiny stone. Zira laughed one day. "He's not just learning from you. He's learning from the whole jungle." Jack nodded. Maybe that's the future. Not man or beast, but both. Years passed. Jack stood again in the sacred circle. Now older, wiser, tired. Ash stood beside him, full-grown now, taller than Shadow, with brighter eyes and faster feet. Zira stood nearby, holding a child, their child, wrapped in vines and soft leaves. Jack spoke softly, not to them, but to the stones. "To the jungle, I say thank you. To Shadow, I say I remember. To the future, I say, good luck." He looked at the child, then at Ash, and then at the jungle that had once tried to kill him, but instead chose him. The tamer was gone. But his legacy? It grew with every breath the jungle took, with every seed it planted, with every creature it sheltered, and with every whisper of wind that carried his voice, somewhere deep in the trees, still whistling.